welcome to the Chile Today podcast. I'm Bethany Francis.
And I'm Lenny Kluge.
We're two immigrants living in Chile talking about Chilean news, cultural events, travel, business, and more.
If you want to support our podcast, check out our Patreon at www.patreon.com/The Chile Today Podcast. That's one word. www.patreon.com/The Chile Today Podcast.
Ready. Hi, Lenny.
Hey, buongiorno. How is it going?
Oh, why are you foreign?
I have been foreign for as long as you've known me.
We're both foreign. I didn't want to. I was like, wait, is that Italian?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was about to say French, and I was like, wait, no. Okay, I'm sorry. So that's fine.
Great start.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Staying dry. We're recording on this rainy Sunday.
Rainy, windy, spooky.
Rainy, windy. It's
Saturday.
Oh, it's a Saturday. I'm not with it, you guys. I did not have any coffee today, which was not by design. I'm not trying to cut back on caffeine or anything. I'm not like insane. I just haven't had it. I just didn't have time. And so my brain might not be with it, which is great since we're having such an important topic today.
Hey.
Yeah, you might, Pinguino, pay attention because you might have to catch me on speaking gibberish or something. But anyway, what's going on with your life? Anything new?
Not much, not really. Doing a lot of research on this topic. I do have a gig with my band, though. If I may plug that.
Oh yeah, I forgot you have a band. So tell all the people about your band.
Pray tell. Yeah, I have a great rock band. We're called The Last Lovers, and we're like a Chilean-American, German motley bunch who plays rock music, and we play our own songs. And we're gonna have our first gig since before the pandemic. Actually, the last gig was actually, I think, 2 days before like all hell broke loose, like in the States.
Oh, I remember that because it was really close to my birthday.
And I was about to fly to New York, and we actually canceled that thing last minute, which was good. And I'm still. Well, one thing led to another, and now I'm suing LATAM because they're not going to reimburse the ticket. But that's a different story,
you're
folks.
You're not alone in that.
Oh, no. No, actually, there has been a collective, like a class action lawsuit, but, I went ahead alone. So, anyway. So, we're going to have the gig on this Thursday.
Anyway, this Thursday.
Yeah, I could get into this, but it's going to be too long.
What day is this Thursday?
A Thursday. But it's the 14th.
You know what I meant.
It's going to be...
14th.
Thursday, the 14th of July, we're going to play with another band, which is called No Nation, which is a cover band. So if you don't like little rock bands that play their own little stuff, maybe you like cover bands better because, they're always good for a party.
I love cover bands.
Yeah, you can sing along. They're great. Actually, I did have a few rehearsals with those guys, too, once, and they're fun. And
then he plays bass.
Yeah.
And he goes from like this jolly old giant German to this like rock hard bass German when he plays, and it's pretty hilarious. With a bass face. So the first time you're meeting Lenny, he might seem pretty intimidating, and then he'll get off stage and be like, "Hi, my name is Lenny."
Intimidating.
It's great. You do see when you're on stage, you get into it, and it's like, oh my goodness. That's a scary German right there. But they have great music. So where is it?
It's gonna be it's called the House Rock and Blues, which is in Ñuñoa, in the street República de Israel. It's like right off Irarrázaval. Just Google it, folks. You'll find it. And doors at 9 p.m. We're gonna charge a little cover charge of 3 lucas. And it's a great place. Come check it out if you want to see me play. Hooray! If not, fine. And yay.
So other events, especially ones pertaining to our Patreon patrons, is we have this upcoming weekend, the 16th, there is a brunch, and it's going to be at the Black Rock, and there's going to be crepes and quiche and lots of wonderful things. And so there's 2 things you need to remember: that our patrons get a free mimosa when they come, and if you're one of the first 5 people to reserve a spot at the brunch, you will get a free drink.
Yep, and I think there are already 4 spots taken, so...
So by the time you hear this,
yep.
Hey, reach out to us, see if you can grab that last spot. But if you're a patron, like I said, you're going to get the free mimosa, so don't forget to bring your screenshot of your Patreon subscription And then that's all you need for that, and it's gonna be fun. It's basically like a chance to get to meet a lot of different people from the community, both gringos and Chileans. If you have questions about like different things, we would just kind of wanted to offer an ear, make new friends. I mean, the pandemic was a really like long process for a lot of us, and I feel like a lot of the people who've lived here for a long time, a lot of our friends left. We all sort of feel disjointed and disconnected, so we kind of just wanted to have an event to kind of reconnect everybody in the community.
Yeah, like learn about, like, if you're new to Santiago, come talk to a couple of people who've been living here for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years or more. He can tell you about the ins and outs, meet new people, as you said, like practice your Spanish, practice your English, learn about like events that are taking place here in Santiago. Not only our Chistolas events, of course, because we're trying to not branch out, but like give other events also like a platform, because it's all about you guys.
Yeah, so if you also are a host of events in the city, we want to meet you. We want to see if we can help each other out. We're getting together with like Santiago Speaks and like different places like that to cross promote. So, hey, show up, meet us, high five us, ask us questions. Or just drink a lot of freaking mimosas.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Okay, so what's the last event for this
beautiful month of July?
For the month of July.
This sunny, not rainy at all month of July. It was going to be our monthly trivia night, or pub quiz, if you are so inclined, on Saturday the 23rd.
The 23rd.
In the Black Rock Pub, as usual. And if you don't know what that is, I meant the trivia night, not the Black Rock Pub.
It's a bilingual trivia night.
Yes. It's a bilingual trivia night in which you come and you do trivia and you win prizes. And it's in English and in Spanish, and it's really a hoot and a half.
Yeah, you can build a team of up to 4 people. One round in English, the next will be in Spanish. But don't worry, it's really accessible for all language learners. We can repeat questions in whichever language. It's a super, super popular event, and you're getting to hear about it first. When it is, because most people are like, when is the next one? And we don't really release those details because we don't want to take reservations. But you're hearing it first, CTP listeners. So if you want to go ahead and make a reservation,
bunch.
you can email us, chiletodaypodcast@gmail.com, or our Instagram, or you can email the Chistolas, or
just pop us a message on social media.
Just pop one of the messages somewhere.
It's 2022, people.
Yeah, and of course our Patreon patrons get a big discount because it's 10,000 pesos per team. And so they get 2,500 peso discount per patron.
Yep.
So if you have a team of 4 patrons,
I have to make sure that I always run around with like 500 peso coins, because that sometimes happens.
But so let us know if you're interested in that. It's a really fun time. Make your reservations as soon as possible, because like I said, we always have a waiting list, and unfortunately we always have to turn people away. And nobody wants to be out in the cold in this weather.
Nope, nobody.
Okay, so there you go.
So, we're not giving you news today, we're just giving you fake news today.
Just fake news. We're going to dispel the fake news. We're not going to be like, this is fake news and then nothing else. We thought it would be very pertinent at this time to talk about a lot of the fake news, specifically concerning the Constitution.
Yes.
And actually, I found this on fastcheck.cl that 64% of news that has been checked by fastcheck.cl has turned out to be false.
Yeah, which is not surprising at all, but it's still,
It's a lot. Like, the campaign started, one reason we're doing this is in Chile they have official start and end dates to campaigns.
Yeah.
And
but you get slapped with a fine if you are outside.
It's really weird, and nobody can tell me why, like, it matters. Because, for example, if I had, like, a vote, whatever, on my balcony, if I don't remove that, like, at a specific time, then you get a fine. And I was like, but why not? And they're just like, because you can't. And I guess maybe it's to, like, after the vote, if somebody wins or loses, it causes less of a hoopla. It's like somebody's not going to be throwing eggs at my apartment, I guess. I don't know. That's my only,
or maybe
assumption.
Just to, like, level... maybe it's just to level the playing field. Like, if you have 2 or 3 parties that do not have the same means of, like, stretching out the campaign, like, time-wise...
As far as, like, financially?
Yeah, maybe, or they don't have the manpower or something. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
If you have more money for a campaign, then you are going to have I don't think it matters.
More intense campaign.
Yeah, it's just going to be compressed.
Yeah, it could be.
Anyway, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Fastcheck.cl we got a lot of information from a lot of different websites, but that's just a really easy thing, because it's in English, those 2 words. Really good place to check not just constitutional facts, but facts about fake news in Chile in general. And they don't just do like things that are false. They say like misleading or a lot of the
and
fact check
uncheckable or whatever.
exactly like sort of true kind of thing. So
yeah.
Check that out if you want more information. But Lenny, I think you're going to start with the first fact.
Yeah, actually, no. I mean, if you don't mind, I have kind of like a preamble, if you will. You see what I did there? Preamble, like the Constitution. Yeah, right. So, yeah, because this whole the whole research into this whole thing like got me thinking a little bit, and there are like oh no, here we go. So I mean, look, I think personally also like one of the reasons that I think it's so hard to have like a constructive conversation about the new constitution is that it's something in the realm of laws and legislation. And I don't mean that it's like necessarily hard to like understand the legalese of the text.
No.
I mean, let's not forget like many people in the Constitutional Convention, they are not lawyers by trade.
No.
And one of the main tasks of the harmonization commissions was to make sure to leave the text in language that, your average Joe could actually understand.
Right. A lot of people have been using that as an excuse not to even try to read the new Constitution, which I don't think is, because I'm not a native speaker, and I definitely have problems with a lot of legalese. When I have problems with I feel like normal
problems with legalese in my own language. I mean...
exactly. But I find the new Constitution, at least the parts, I haven't read the whole thing yet, but I've read a lot of it because of this research, which I plan to read the whole thing, is very digestible.
Yeah.
Very digestible, very straightforward. And yeah, I agree with you. I also think people are forgetting that again, we shouldn't be as citizens expected to be constitutionalists, right?
Yeah.
But I think that nobody is doing a good job of explaining what a constitution is, because I think a lot of people think that these are laws, and these are not laws. These are a framework for how you can eventually pass laws for the country.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that really goes into the realm of, that's semantics here, but yeah, I know what you mean.
I think that's important, because especially for the things I'm about to talk about.
They're laws for laws. Let's put it like that.
There's a framework of saying, like, you have the right to this, but what does that mean? That all depends on what the Congress and the Senate vote on, because you're still going to have that. So we'll talk more about that later.
That's actually what I wanted to say. I think like the problem is not so much that people won't understand the text when they read it. I think it's like the legal interpretation, and I think I've heard a couple of times from like lawyers from different side of the political spectrum basically giving their interpretation on a part of the Constitution, and they're coming to very different results, and they were talking about the same thing. And then also like the outlook that economists give on the text, that's a completely different thing. And depending on which school of economics, for example, you subscribe to, you might end up believing that the new constitution is going to be the end of Chile as we know it, or the start into a glorious new age of prosperity and equality. It really depends on how, like, what your formation is in these things. But all the while, like us average guys with neither a solid education in economics or law, because that's, I don't know about you, but I don't have neither. I mean, I've studied business management. I wouldn't really say that I have had a good...
I'm an armchair, just like to read books about the stuff person, which is not anything official.
I know a thing or two about economics, but I wouldn't sit...
and this one's a penguin. So, if in case you're listening to this and you're like, I just, wanted this... we are not professionals. We are just two people who live in Chile.
I just made that clear.
I was like, I feel like our listeners already know this about us. No. We are two people that live in Chile that care about facts and politics and all these kinds of things. Yeah. And so anything we say it can be wrong. That's why we're giving you the websites and we're giving you the stuff. Yeah, exactly. And we're always open to, like, if you're like, bros, that was not right what you said, like that was incorrect, can you go back and
Police.
Hey, just message us. We don't want to be our own well of fake news either, right? So
the well of fake news.
The well of fake news,
right? But I think that's also like the root of the problem, that like a lot of people who do not have like the necessary education to really make a good judgment call on, like, they kind of listen to both sides maybe, or maybe just the side that they're more politically inclined towards, and they just go like, sounds good to me, and then that's really hard. But so we know that we're not professionals, as you just pointed out. So as you said, like in this episode, we're not going to discuss like how the new constitution might change the country for the better or for the worse, even though we're probably going to get to that at some point.
Yeah, probably.
We're absolutely unqualified, but we're going to talk about it anyway. But like what we're doing today is we're going to take some of the most widespread pieces of fake news about the new constitution and the constitutional convention as well, and debunk it and tell you why it's wrong.
True. Like things that are 100% aren't true, but that are still out there and are very like, like hyperbolic and like trying to scare people, right?
Yep. And again, we're not trying to tell you to go vote apruebo or rechazo. I mean, that's completely up to you, but just be informed when you do it. That's the thing is that almost every piece of fake news or like demonstrably false information that we've came across has come out of the political right. I don't want to say everything, but the vast majority.
I mean, there's a reason for that. Like that's not a coincidence.
And it was either from public figures or also like from dubious social media accounts that more often than not had like the Chilean flag in the profile picture and their name was like Chileno Patriota or whatever. It's like really weird thing. And man, there's been
this got spread so fast
and so much fake news out there. I mean, like. Okay, as you mentioned, like we've based most of our research on 3 fact-checking sites, which was like Fast Check, as you said. There's also Lupa Constitucional and Plataforma Contexto. I also wholeheartedly recommend these 3 sites if you want to fact-check anything.
Fact-check us.
They're pretty good. I mean,
are those... Wait, what?
We'll share the link.
Yeah, we can share the link.
Yeah,
sure,
we can do
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, are those sites biased? I certainly hope not, and that's not really a rabbit hole I care to go down. But I assume that they're not because I mean, look, we're not getting paid for this after all. But
no, I mean, we use our, if you want to support us on our Patreon, heck yeah, we're actually buying new mics soon. So thank you guys, our patrons, for helping contribute to that. But as far as like money in the pockets, not yet.
Maybe in the
someday.
Pockets.
Maybe someday. But we do this again because we love Chile. We love learning about this stuff and want to be informed and know that there is a lot of people who speak English out there, not only who live in Chile, but who are wanting to learn about Chile, who want this information. So
this information?
This information,
Thank
not
you.
disinformation. This. Well, we are giving them
These
some
nuts.
disinformation. We are giving them some disinformation. So I think also I want to say like one of the reasons why there is so much fake news. For example, like when I think about fake news in the U.S., right? When I look at it, I'm like, that's obviously not true. Like anybody that knows anything about abortion knows that that's not true or whatever, because of just the way that, like Plan B, for example, like we know, like it prevents insertion in XYZ. A lot of people know that if you know anything about that. But because this is about a constitution, and because so many people aren't constitutionalists, and we don't deal with those kinds of conversations in our everyday life, it is really easy to be like, oh, the interpretation of this means this.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, well, how am I supposed to know that
you have
that's
no way
what they
to just prove it because most of the experts, they don't know that for sure either. They just be like, okay, there are precedents that, look at this and this might play out that way.
we're going to get more into that. Well, okay, so maybe we should just start so we can give more specific examples of this as we go. Righto.
We're just starting at the 30-minute mark.
Oh yeah, have we?
Around.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that this is going to be definitely a two-parter.
Maybe a 3-parter. So
you should
hang
be
on
surprised
to your
now.
britches.
Yeah. So let me start with one of the major pieces of fake news that has been making the rounds, that the new constitution will expropriate retirement funds. Oh my god. Okay.
Like we have any.
Yeah, okay. If you are that is so sad.
And so true.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with how things work in Chile, for context, like unlike many European countries, for example, in which people's retirement pension is being financed by general taxes, in Chile people are basically made to save for their own retirement.
Exactly.
And they need to do this by paying into one of the several AFPs, which are pension fund administrators, which is literally what that stands for, and which are state sanctioned. Like that can't be like I can't just create an enter business and saying this is I'm doing. Right. I'm an AFP
the majority
now.
Of them are owned by other countries.
Yep, and they are private companies. They are state sanctioned, but they are private companies. And these AFPs, then they invest your money, hopefully multiply it, and pay you back in monthly installments by the time you reach retirement. So much for the theory.
Right. Just for context, everybody hates this unless you're rich because you're the only contributor. So especially if you don't have a contract, which the vast majority of Chilean workers, I think it's, I don't want to give a percentage because I don't know, but it's over 70%, I'm 100% sure, of Chilean workers are non-contract workers, like myself. And so your contribution is just coming out of your boletos honorarios, which is what you're claiming on your taxes, which if you sell vegetables at La Vega is not anything maybe. And so, because you're getting paid in cash, and so you are not contributing anything.
Yeah,
and
that
so
was just
you
about
have
to,
no retirement.
Yeah. I was just about to say, talking about the ins and outs of the system could actually be an episode of its own. Write that down.
I feel like maybe we have talked about this in the past, maybe, but not with you, not that much in depth. So yeah, we'll write that down. We'll go. But anyway, so context of the system.
Yeah, so that exactly. So suffice to say that people, as you said, like people just hate the fucking guts of the AFPs and the whole system, because for many people who earn the bare minimum, if they are even in the AFPs to begin with, whatever they're going to get back at the age of 65 is not going to be enough to survive. And add to that allegations of mismanagement by the AFPs, and you just got the perfect storm right there. People just don't like the AFPs, period.
No.
So much for context. Now, let's dig into those fake news. Now, on March 28th, there was a tweet that made the round that was saying, and I'm just going to translate. I did a lot of translation here, so do my very best to give you my conspirator voice, conspiracy theorist voice. It's like, wake up, Chile! Yesterday it was approved that under the new constitution your AFP funds can be expropriated, man. Your effort, your work, so that the communists can redistribute it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and more, So
they went all the way.
Yeah, and
they went all the way.
That's not true. That's just not true.
Just not true.
So what happened there? And even that's the funny thing. Even the fact checkers couldn't quite make heads or tails of it, because
this got tweeted a lot, I guess.
Yeah, it got tweeted a lot, but apparently that's like the first instance or the first time it really popped out on the radar. Yeah, that's most of these fake news. It wasn't just most of these fake news wasn't just a one-off. That was something that just like blossomed and then boom.
But it's weird that it was just some rando, like it wasn't a politician or anything. It was just some rando that started it.
Yeah, that's the thing, because that's what I meant. Like most of these fake news were spread either by politicians like Felipe Cast.
Yeah.
Or by like people who are called like Patriot 123 or Chileno ABC,
guys,
and they have like flags in the profile pic. So you never know who's behind that.
If you're weird,
Lover of freedom.
Yeah.
Hashtag lover of freedom.
Good Lord, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, okay. Good rule of thumb: if your weird cousin or your aunt or your brother shares something, don't just believe them. Like, don't. I mean, even if it's somebody you like, honestly, they're usually pretty good about that. Everybody's gonna make mistakes, especially if it's something so like blanket statement about something. Just give it a goog.
Question the system, man.
Just give it a little Google, and then see if give it a goog, as my other favorite podcast likes to say. Just give it a little goog and see if they're right, and if you can't find the information, just assume a good assumption that it's wrong.
Yeah.
Ask somebody else you trust, and if they're like, I don't know about that, man, then just assume it's not correct.
Sounds pretty hinky to me.
And don't retweet it.
Right. So after that, diatribe of a tweet, like the fact checkers were like, okay, let's find out what happened there, and they ended up scratching their heads because, like that day, because that tweet was like referring to something that apparently just happened in the convention, and that day, like nothing even remotely related to the pension funds was discussed in the Constitutional Convention. So what they did is like they assumed that this might have to do something with a misunderstanding regarding a vote on private property, which is like a different chapter altogether. It's like we're talking about retirement funds, which you could also classify as property in a way, but then there's a different chapter on private property. I mean, that's a different discussion, but semantics, right? So what happened there is that the constituyente, and I'm just gonna say constituyente because constituents is a completely different thing in English.
No, what are they called in the it's Hamilton. They're people working for the Constitutional Convention.
The constituyente. I'm just gonna stick to that. So her name is Rocío Cantuarias. She wanted to amend a proposal on the subject matter of private property with the indication, and I quote again, under no circumstance can the state expropriate the pension funds of the workers. Now, this was squarely rejected in the plenum, which means in front of the entire,
the entire convention.
With 8 in favor and 24 against, but not because the majority really wanted to expropriate average Joe's pension funds, but because it simply had nothing to do with the topic at hand, which was private property rights, So they were like, okay, good idea, but not here. Go somewhere else. So a month later, the same Rocío Cantuarias, she tried to add another indication to a proposal written up by the Fundamental Rights Commission of the Constitutional Convention, which said, and I quote again, the workers are owners of their pension funds and may inherit them to third parties as established by the law unless they explicitly express themselves to the contrary. However, this was also rejected, but by far less of a margin, 46 in favor, 46 against, 42 abstained. And remember, for these things in the Constitutional Convention, you need a 2/3 majority for things to pass. So it was rejected. Now, that caused another social media shitstorm, singling out 12 constituyentes, from the left, of course, that either rejected the proposed amendment or abstained from voting altogether. And that, tweet accused them of wanting to basically just go on an expropriation spree, you know? And among these 12 constituyentes that were singled out was Elisa Loncón, Jaime Vasa, and Gaspar Dominguez, all, figureheads of the Constitutional Convention. And yes, they did indeed reject or abstain this little indication that Ms. Cantuarias filed. But also here you need some context to understand that, because there was yet another indication that Ms. Cantuarias wanted to sneak into one of the proposals.
Yeah, because you have to remember, this is all a vote. People are like, oh, they're just throwing things out there. This is a vote, and there are people from many different political parties. There are definitely majorities in some areas, but there's definitely there's people being like, bro, what the fuck you talking? And they're gonna stop if something ridiculous comes up. Not that necessarily what she's saying is ridiculous. But
but actually the point I was making was it goes to the contrary because she made she wanted to have another indication, which was pretty much the same thing, just a different wording. And what happened there, that basically most of these guys that were accused of you rejected this indication, they actually voted in favor of this other indication that also was rejected on the whole in the end, but they voted in favor. Do you know what I mean?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
So they were this one tweet singled out 12 people who voted against this whole thing.
They singled out.
They singled out 12 people who
voted against it.
Against
they actually
or
voted.
Abstained. And they were like, oh, these guys want to expropriate your funds. And they were like, yeah, we voted against it, but the point I was trying to make here is there was a different indication which had very similar wording, but in that instance, they voted in favor for it. The whole motion was rejected because other people voted against it, but these 12 individuals, I don't know if it was all of them 12, but they were just like, okay, no, we do agree with the wording here. So basically, you could make the case that this was more about the wording than about the content.
Sure.
I have no way of knowing this for sure, but these guys know their stuff, they're lawyers, whatever, some of them. So they were just like, okay, we're not going to vote for this, turn of phrase here. We rather have this other wording used, which uses a different word, which has, I don't know what kind of consequences.
But none of it has anything to do with the expropriation of your retirement. Except for the inheritance, but that's not expropriation.
Exactly, it's just layers upon layers upon layers.
I mean, that's just okay, the state's not allowed to take it literally says the opposite. It says the state can't take your retirement.
Exactly.
You have Did he not read the not part? He
exactly.
read the state can expropriate your retirement, and then did he just not read the no puede, that part?
Yeah, no, I mean,
because it says the opposite.
It says something about private property to that effect, but I think this is what the fact-checking website says. Somebody was talking about the retirement funds, and then maybe they willfully confused it with the whole thing about private property rights, and then people rejected a certain phrasing that was about
related.
Yeah, that was related, or that wasn't really related to the private property, but it was to the retirement funds.
So basically, somebody getting confused with words.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know if they got confused or they were just like, oh, this looks pretty confusing to begin with. How about we just spin this to my favor here?
There's so much of South America that's always we're going to end up like X, whether it's we're going to end up like Venezuela because of the politics, we're going to end up like Colombia because of the drugs, we're going to end up like Argentina because of the money. It's always we're going to, and I'm like, I can see what you're saying, but at the same time, Chile is a different country, right? It has a completely different history. They have been showing over and over that it's setting trends and doing things in a completely different way than all of those countries. And I just, people's fear of we're going to be like X is making a lot of fake news, basically.
Yeah, you could make that point. Yeah,
sure. They're gonna be like Bolivia, and they're gonna take our shit.
Yeah. So let me just jump forward another month, because we're not done with this quite yet, because another month later there was another tweet that popped up saying also, wake up Chile, to all those who didn't believe it and all those lying politicians that said that the pension funds wouldn't be expropriated, here's the proof that they indeed will be expropriated.
Same guy?
No, not same guy, different, well, who knows, but different Twitter handle at least. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, probably. So under the tweet, that user included a screenshot of a document that came out of the convention. It's called the Indicación number 67. What's that worth? So, and that was written by the Constituyente Loreto Vallejos, which is, right now it's too long to translate word by word, but basically it said that within the year all the pension funds would be taken out of the AFPs and transitioned into a state-owned institution that would oversee the administration of these funds. Okay?
Okay.
Yep, that indication that did exist. I mean,
Yep.
that is true.
Okay.
But it was rejected with 63 votes in favor, 35 against. Again, not getting
Not
to
a-
the
not a
two-third
majority.
majority, 14 abstentions. So it didn't make the cut into the final proposal.
Again,
And
is it
also,
just like I'm trying to give
the-
benefit of the doubt here?
Yeah.
It was like, is this person? Are these people not understanding this is not like a democratic vote of like whatever gets the majority wins? It's not. It's not like that.
I think it's a different thing. But let me just finish that thought, because also you have to consider that that indication only talked about transferring the administration of the funds from the private sector to a public institution.
Right.
Like at no point did that indication make reference to an actual expropriation, which, you know, it's kind of funny because as things are now, I cannot even access my funds if I wanted to. So
No, I mean like
You know
that's the
what I
thing
mean?
about the IFPs. It's not like in the U.S. where you can be like, oh, I've hit a rough time. I'm a get my into my IRA or my 401k, and I'm gonna figure this out. Or I'm gonna go back to college, or I'm gonna do. It's not like that. You can't. That's why we've had these votes to access these funds, because Chileans. This is the Chileans' money. Like nobody is contributing except for Chileans privately,
Yeah.
and yet they cannot access this money, and so. Yeah, that's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
but I can't let, again, benefit of the doubt. I can understand the fear that these people have, even if what he's saying is completely untrue. I can understand a fear that, okay, we're going from the administration of our money from private companies to state companies,
Yeah.
because like what
It's not
are
a
they
great-
going to be
Not
doing
a great
with that
track
money?
record on a regional level, if you will. You know.
Sure, like what are they going to be doing? What kind of investments are going to be? Because it's still my money. What kind of investments am I going to lose it all? Like, you know, for the people who have money, which people who have money are the people who are rich and the people who own like 4 houses or whatever, and so they're very concerned about they're able to contribute more, right?
I mean,
and you're making.
middle class people also pay into the AFP.
Oh
I
no
mean,
no
that's
sure
you know,
no I'm not saying, I mean again
thing is, you don't really
my
have-
boyfriend has an IFP
you don't
that's
have
really good.
much control over how the AFPs are investing your money either.
No, but I definitely think that, especially when it comes to like right-wing people, they're very much more trusting into the private companies in the state. And so I can
Yeah.
understand the fear there, but that doesn't mean that that thing is going to happen with the expropriation, or that anything bad is going to happen. Also, it got rejected, so it doesn't matter. But I'm
Right.
just trying to say I can understand a fear in that respect.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, if you have that mindset, of course, you know, if you trust more private institutions than public institutions, fair, you know, and then I
But
get
again,
it.
none of that happened, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, still. All right, so lastly, just going to jump back to March 31st this year, when the title page of Las Últimas Noticias, they featured the Constituyente Bernardo Fontaine saying the workers won't be the owners of the pension funds anymore. That was just like the title page. So, for context, the day before, there were 2 popular initiatives that were voted on. And by the way, only in the respective commissions and not in the plenum. So Mr. Fontaine also there got a little bit ahead of them of himself, because he was just like, well, you know, people are not going to be owners of their funds anymore. It's like, buddy,
Calm
it has
down.
not even been voted in the plenum.
Yeah,
so
no, it
take it
hasn't.
easy. So one of these popular initiatives was by the initiative Con mi plátano, so not with my banana. Thank you, with my banana, not with my money. Con mi plátano.
It really true. Oh my god, that's amazing.
And that initiative basically just thought to strengthen Social Security, but also made clear that the pension funds are absolutely untouchable and cannot be expropriated. That proposal was rejected. The other proposal came from the initiative No Más AFP. You might have seen bumper stickers about
Yeah.
that. I mean, that's a pretty famous one that actually sprung up way before the whole
during
new constitution.
Bachelet's
Like that thing is old.
government.
So, and that proposal sought to strengthen the social security system as well, but they preferred an approach in which the funds were being administered by public institutions instead of AFPs, right? So that proposal was accepted, but not in its entirety. So, because there was this one transitionary norm that would have defined the transition of funds from one entity to another, that didn't make the cut. It was pretty close to what I was just talking about, this initiative that they were like, okay, we're going to take them out from the AFPs and then we're going to put them into
the state,
public institutions.
Yeah.
That one didn't make the cut, you know. So what's in the draft of the Constitution now basically says that the state needs to provide social security and that this will be funded by means of contributions made by employees, employers, and the state. But at no point does it talk about the personal pension funds as such. You know, it just says, okay, this is going to be the system moving forward. And I think, if I remember that right, a month ago or something, there was somebody in the Boric administration who also talked about this. And it was absolutely taken out of context. Because yes, they would need to make a transition of the social security system happen. So whereas now people pay into their individual pension funds,
as singular contributors.
Yeah, exactly. If then the new if the new constitution gets accepted, they will eventually, partially at least, pay into a public fund. You know, because there's a mixed system under debate, whatever. But at no point is there talk about taking away what you have already saved up. You know, that thing is yours. You know,
again, because it's problem with societies in general, not just Chile, is people don't know how their pensions work. Right? If you're contributing X amount, your X amount isn't going to be taken down. It just meant that, you know, instead of investing all of that in this investment pot over here, some of that's going to be taken out of the pot and put into the state. But you're not going to get less than what you've already contributed. People don't understand that, which is understandable because nobody tells you about it. It's not something you learn in school.
No, actually, the thing is that you already get less than what you contributed. That's the kicker here. Like, if you, I think somebody did the math once, they were like, look, under the current system, like if you wanted to get all of your money plus interest out of your whatever you paid through, like into the AFP during your lifetime, you would have to like turn like 120 years, something like that. You know, it's just a joke.
And the thing is, Chileans don't like change. Like, in general, a lot of Chileans are especially, like, very wary of change. And honestly, I don't even think it is a left or right thing. I feel like Chileans in general are very, like, kind of shy and conservative and one step in front of the other. And so, like, this idea of, like, whoa, we're overhauling this thing, because it would be a pretty big transition, right, from what we're doing right now to the future of IFIP is, and people are comfortable, especially middle class, upper middle class, rich people are comfortable with how their lives work because they can contribute, but it doesn't make any sense. And any first world country, if you want to be a first world country, has to pay pensions to their workers, and the only way you're going to do that is not to have a singular contributing system the way that we have right now, because you can't you can't have a grandmother who worked from 14 to 90 years old having no pension. Like, you just can't have, it's not human, it's not humane. Yeah. We have to, and it's not a big deal. Again, the US, Europe, all of these countries have these types of pension systems that we're talking about in the Constitution.
Yeah, but you know, some are better, some are worse. That's a different thing
to
discuss
it's not
about,
going to break the country. Yeah. Everybody needs to calm down. Calm the fuck down.
So just to wrap this up, so Mr. Fontaine, the guy who said, like, you know, who was on the title page of the Las Últimas Noticias, you know, he also said in that interview that the Constitution, a quote, the Constitution will not guarantee that the savings are owned by the workers, which leaves the doors to nationalize them wide open, and this is a real threat. Now, it should be noted here that the current Constitution doesn't do that either. It's like Article 19, Section 18 of the current Constitution states that the state, okay, great wording, has the obligation to, I quote, guarantee its citizens the access to basic and uniform benefits, which will be granted by means of public or private institutions. So, like, there's no safeguard against making this public either. So, like, we're already living in this reality. So, like, the fear is a bit unfounded here. You know what I mean?
There's so much has changed in Chile. And like I said, I don't know if it's, people are just scared. Like, I don't think that's an excuse, not, like, for people to be crazy fake newsy people. But people are just scared. Like, so much has happened. We went from, like, I mean, since 2019 with this estallido, like, it has been, especially if you're a right-wing person, you feel like you're losing your grip on your security, which is not true, since nothing has, as somebody who's related to one of the richest people in Chile, they're not losing money. They're they're just not. Like, it's just they're losing their sense of security, and it scares them.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, and it's look what I've just cited, like the couple of fake news here. There was actually a pattern that I noticed, and you probably noticed that too about that, because there's like this pattern in the disinformation that was spread about the new constitutional conventions. Okay, remember that for things to end up in the constitutional draft, they have to undergo a two-step process, right?
Right.
First, things are being discussed in the respective commissions or committees, however you want to call it, and once they are accepted there, they will be discussed in the plenum, like in front of
Like
the entire
public forum kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly. In front of the entire constitutional convention, and only if if it's approved in the plenum as well, it will find its way into the draft. Like, what I've seen a lot was that people taking proposals that were approved in their respective commissions and just be like, see, this is what it's going to be in the new constitution.
And it's like, wasn't accepted by the plenum.
It hasn't even discussed yet,
I think people don't know how it's been working. Like, I don't think the government did a good enough job. Like, they should have made one of those cute cartoon videos that they usually make and be like, how does the constitutional convention work? First, Mary Beth Joe takes her things to her little community, and then she goes to the and you laugh, but I'm not joking.
Like the 50s.
But
we talked about this before. It's like the communication has not been the strong suit.
I mean, they've been doing those little videos with the vacunas, and they've been working, so why haven't we done this with one of the most important historical moments in Chilean history?
Funding, I guess. I have no idea.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
I'll pay for it. How much is a little... I can make the YouTube video.
How much cash do I have on me?
Give me a stick figure.
Stick figure.
Donate to the Patreon.
Donate to the Patreon.
We're going to make it happen.
Hey, look, donate to the Patreon. I will make... me and Pinguino and Lenny will make a video and explaining in stick figures how... Hey, literally. If we get... How about if we get... I'll say it right now. If we get 3 more patrons on our $10 level this month, we're going to make a stick figure. And it's going to only be on the $10 and the $20 level.
I want to have this set where I have like a fireplace and I sit on my like little recliner and I'm reading a book and I'm smoking a pipe and the camera comes closer and I was like, oh, didn't see you there. Like that kind of thing.
If we get 3 more people on the either $10 or $20 level, we will post it on the $10 and $20 level.
That'd be so awesome.
We're going to do it. I'm saying it here right now. If you want to see it, you get on our Patreon.
Right. So that's the things, like as you said, like I think a lot of people didn't understand how it works, but I think there were like a lot of people who absolutely do understand how this works, but know that a lot of people do not understand, and they were just like this, because the thing is like, it's official information. That's the thing about a transparent public process. It's official information. So they tweeted it. This was rejected, and they were like, "Oh, this is something great to be taken out of context. Let's just tweet this and stir fears." And they were like wonky proposals, like absolute wacky things, but they were rejected in the plenum.
I mean, sometimes it's I agree with you. I think there's definitely malicious intent out there, but I also think people are also just stupid sometimes. And if you're an important, I don't know, podcaster figure or whatever, and you say something like us, we're so important, and you put something out there, like, you believe this authority. Like, we don't have thousands and thousands of listeners, but I mean, maybe somebody's listening to us and are like, oh, Bethany and Lenny have an edge of authority there, and so if we have a responsibility to try to not put fake news out there. Especially like people like Felipe Cast and all these people who are politicians, Jose Antonio Cast, like these people, you have a responsibility to at least double check, give it a Google, like, something, because I don't know what it is. I just honestly think most of the time fake news is not spread with malicious intent. I don't know, maybe I'm just naive. Yeah. I think it's just spread because it reinforces your own belief system.
Yeah, echo chambers and all that. And I don't think we can discuss this like in length, but like honestly, I think good old Donald Trump made a very bad precedent, like put a very bad precedent there.
Put a very bad president there.
Yeah, you see what I think. But because because this is when people learn from the more populist fringes that you can just blatantly just lie and just get away with it.
And how much of this is Russia?
Honestly, like, you can't tell me that people like Felipe Cas, like Marcela Cubillos, like Ina Van Beer, like people who are educated people, like just share shit without, because they know what's at stake. They know that people they know that people are watching them, and they're like, okay, they know that eventually somebody's going to find out what they shared is fake news. You can't tell me that they don't know that, or that they don't put the work in that.
And make no mistake, I'm not saying everything that they do is for malicious intent, but make no mistake, these people will do whatever it takes to win on whatever side.
Yeah, and that's why I was going with that, because they know, okay, I might get called out on that, but the negative impact for my political opponent is going to be a lot greater than the negative impact is going to have on me.
I remember our former president, Piñera, our former president Piñera, his family wrote the current constitution. I mean, we are not far removed from the people who have adamantly supported the current constitution, who have put their butts on the line for this constitution. I mean, it's not only is it personal and political and economical, it's just so much more than that. And so they are going to do, again, whatever they need to do to make sure that their agenda is accepted, and that they're going to get the votes that they need. And honestly, like, they keep saying that, if it's rejected, we're going to, like, go back and we're going to write another form of the constitution, and I don't believe that I don't know if it's just me being bitter. I don't believe that for a fucking second. I don't think there's going to be another draft. I think, and all of the writing people are like, no, not all of them, but a lot of the, like, Mate has been like, look, we're going to just write another one. Don't worry, we'll write a more comprehensive. I'm like, I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, I got thoughts on that, but that would be outside of the scope of this whole thing. So
we're trying to get to fake news.
So much about the retirement funds. What you got?
I got abortion.
Ooh, fun.
Okay, so a lot of people have been saying that under the new constitution that you would be able to get an abortion up to 9 months of pregnancy. So I feel like I shouldn't have to explain this, but I'll go into it.
My hand puppets.
Right. Okay. So just in general, if you don't know, nobody gets an abortion willingly up to 9 months of pregnancy. Nobody does.
I thought because during like until recently in the US that was like a weekend activity.
Just all the time. Just
hey Becky, what you gonna do this weekend? Let's get an abortion. So much fun.
A 9-month abortion.
I'm being sarcastic.
No, I mean, so okay. First of all, there's I'm just like rubbing my face right now. First of all, there's that, right? But let's. Also, context, with the current constitution, we're almost incapable of legalizing safe abortions in Chile. Consider that as I read this next thing and what our potentially new constitution, if it gets accepted, would say. So this was the plenary session. There was a vote that was held in the first draft of the Commission on Fundamental Rights, which Article number 16 referred to sexual and reproductive rights. That was approved, and it indicates that the state must, among other things, guarantee the condition for a pregnancy, a voluntary termination of pregnancy, voluntary and protected childbirth, and maternity. This is all part of what was happening in that report. I'm going to go into more detail. Mm-hmm. But after that vote, which was all of that was accepted in the plenum, there were constituyentes. This says conventioneers on this translation, and I was like,
"What was musketeers?"
I was like, "What was I thinking about when I was translating this?" From Chile Vamos, which is right-wing coalition, such as Constanzo Uve, Pablo Tolosa, and Jorge Arancibia, in addition to Deputy Juan Antonio Coloma, Senator Felipe Cast, former presidential candidate Jose Antonio Cast, and even some Catholic Church. Okay, so a lot of these people, obviously, have posted onto social networks that the approval of this would give women the rights to an abortion even days or hours before the child is born, which is false. This is just not correct. Okay, so although the article refers to voluntary interruption of a pregnancy, it is focused on the sexual and reproductive rights. It does not indicate anywhere in the terms and deadlines to make the right effective. So specifically, if this constitution is approved, it means that you have the right to that, but there have been no laws passed indicating any sort of what does that mean? Exactly. What is the access? Is it an obligation that doctors do that, or is it voluntary? There's nothing that says that, and nothing or the conditions. There's nothing that forces that. Has nothing to do with the Constitution. It has more to do with sexual rights that you can then pass laws for abortion, because with the current Constitution you can't.
Yeah, it basically says yes, there needs to be the possibility of an abortion. You cannot completely close that down. But however you define this whole thing, that's up to the laws.
Again, you can't, and okay, so you can't make abortion illegal, and you can't
Yeah.
make it something that is like punishable by law.
Right.
But of course, what are the terms of abortion? It has to be a law. It has to be first a bill and a law, and all those things passed and voted on.
So it could be pretty much the same as we are right now, like the same
It
legal
could not
situation.
change at all.
Yeah.
And again,
Which are the tres causales that
the
we
tres
have, right?
causales, because
The
in
famous-
Chile there is not legal voluntary abortion, and like you have to only can get an abortion under three different circumstances: threat to the fetus, threat to the mother, or incest and rape.
Yeah.
Those are the only ways that you can
And under the
get an
new
abortion. Or
constitution,
if you're
this-
really rich and you go to Clínica Los Condes to get your quote-unquote appendix removed.
Yeah, that's the fourth causal that
That's
you
the
have to
fourth
unlock.
causale.
You have to unlock.
I
with a
joke
secret
about it,
level.
but it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So if you look at the appendix removals
Yeah.
in Clínica Los
But
Condes,
basically
it's
saying-
like 10 times higher than any other
Oh,
clinic.
Lord. So, but under the new constitution, you're saying basically that same tres causales that might just go on because
It might continue
fulfill the basic requirements of what the new constitution
Exactly,
dictates.
because it gives you access to the quote-unquote interruption of your pregnancy, but it doesn't say how.
Yeah.
Like, so again, this entire thing is just fear-mongering. Anyway, as I continue on, specifically, Article 16 states the following, which I think is worded really well, personally. All people and holders of sexual rights and reproductive rights, these include, among others, the right to decide freely and autonomously and informed about one's own body, about the exercise of sexuality, reproduction, pleasure, and contraception. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And the state guarantees the exercise of sexual and reproductive rights without discrimination, with a focus on gender, inclusion, and cultural relevance, as well as access to information, education, health, and services and benefits required for it, ensuring that all women and people with the capacity to gestate, and the conditions for pregnancy, a voluntary interruption of pregnancy, voluntary and protected childbirth, and maternity. Likewise, it guarantees its exercise of free of violence and interference by third parties, whether individuals or institutions.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
It sounds like a mouthful, but if you like read it as there's a lot of protection and focus on education for sexuality, and more focus on that than it is with abortion. Like, you are protected as somebody, as a pregnant person, and not necessarily you can't be discriminated against because of your decisions. Like, you can't be like your job can't fire you because of that you're pregnant, which is also a different kind of thing. Like, we already sort of have those protections, but I think it's just, again, necessary to be in a new constitution as well, right? So this particular what is the name of this website? I forgot which one I got this from. What are the three again?
Oh, it was a fast check.
No, that was not
Grupo
this.
Constituyente.
No.
Or contexto something contexto.
Eso.
Something contexto.cl.
Because I have it translated here, and I'm like, nope, it's
Plataforma
not
Contexto.
Plataforma Contexto. So they spoke with constitutional experts on the subject who clarified that the deadlines in terms of access to this right correspond to a matter of law, as we said earlier, rather than constitutional rank. So all of these, like, law, like how and why and all of these kinds of things have to be passed by law. This is just saying that women and people who can gestate have to have access to information, to health, and to services. But that doesn't mean anything about when you can get an abortion, how you can get an abortion, or even if you it's not like free access. We're not going to have an abortion party anytime soon. So, darn it. Even if it was legal, like, nobody's having an abortion party. I'm not saying no one. That's a blanket statement. So, basically, with the current Constitution, there's no allowances for abortion right now. It doesn't matter how many votes, how many women march in the street. With the current Constitution, you can't have like a free and willing abortion because it actually states in the Constitution that the child have rights or whatever.
Right to the unborn.
The rights of the unborn. It like says that. So
Okay.
there's no way to get that in the way that it is right now.
So
That
they
is
shift-
true.
they
That's not
shifted that
that's a real
thing-
fact.
So they shifted that thing from the rights of the unborn to the rights of the mother in the new
Exactly.
constitution. Okay.
So
I think it's all life is sacred. Period.
in the current
In
Constitution.
the current one, yeah.
current
Oh, now
Constitution.
that's rich coming from the Pinochet constitution, man.
Right? Unless you're a communist. So remember, the Constitution is not a lawgiver. It's just a framework, right? It's up to the legislators to limit or establish the way in which the rights are going to be made operational, and how the interruption or abortions of pregnancy could be carried out and will be carried out by law. So Danitza Perez, executive director of ABOFIM and the professor at the Department of Procedural Law, Universidad Diego Portales, agrees and says and assures that the Constitution is just a framework. She says, in general terms, the effectiveness of fundamental rights, that is, in the form of protection, the conditions are developed through law. Therefore, I'm just sort of repeating the same thing. The Constitution does not have to establish weeks of gestation. It shouldn't have to say the gestation ends here. That's not what the Constitution's for.
It would be too specific.
It would be too specific, and one of the problems that we have with the current Constitution is that it does not allow for the rule of law or for the people to vote and pass laws, because it's so specific.
Because it puts a lock on this
It
whole
puts a
thing.
lock.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the current Constitution. It is a lock on progress. Not that we can say, we're not going to progress to a point, or hopefully not, where we're like having abortions at 9 months. Like, I don't know any woman or any person who
Who
could
would
just
want
say,
that anyway?
no, it just sounds terrible. But I think that there has been a big attempt to have a constitution. Actually, I know there's been a big attempt to have a constitution in which the future generations, whatever is the necessity of what happens in Chile 20, 30, 50 years from now, would be able to pass laws relevant to them, right?
Yeah.
So Perez also is clarified in terms about carrying out an abortion according to the international standards, stating that the definition of so it doesn't have specific weeks, but there's an average base fetal vitality outside the womb, and the WHO has been developing certain limits to say, like, as in human rights of when you can get an abortion. And so there's like even going to be maybe even international standards of when you can't even have abortions.
I mean, it makes sense,
And so that would like and they're saying basically 8 to 9 months. Like, once you're 8 to 9 months, unless the fetus is not alive or there's a risk, that's going to be like an international standard. So it wouldn't even make sense that Chile would be like 9 months. Also, no country has that, like, in the world. Like,
and
Chile would be the first country in the world being like 9-month abortions.
Right.
Like,
And, I mean, everybody here, I mean, you know that I'm very much pro-choice, but then, of course, I mean, there got to be standards, because at some point, like, that thing growing in you turns into a human being.
Viable. It's viable,
and,
right?
and then it would be, then like killing it, that would be murder. Like, and I don't like legal aspects aside. Like, personally, would feel very comfortable being responsible for that in a way,
And
so
again, nobody's
like,
doing that. There's no person you can just say in the world that's like, you know what, I just decided I'm 8 months in and I just, you know what, get it right out. Nobody's doing that. Like, people who have to have abortions at that point in their lives. It is usually a child that is wanted and is loved, and it's a terrible, tragic thing that has to happen. And so, anyway, this was just a stupid statement that's obviously false.
Right, so basically just come back, like, to go to a really weird extreme here. So I guess he wasn't wrong insofar that... No, but I'm just, like, trying to be absurd. He would be like, okay, yeah, so basically, potentially, like, the Congress could say... Yeah, let's make abortion legal until like moments before birth, because like the Constitution doesn't put a lock on that. Then he could say, see, it's like theoretically that could happen. Like, yeah, theoretically that could happen, but then come on, be real. Yeah, like,
right.
Like,
how many of those actual cases are going to exist?
Because that would be also like, okay, under the current Constitution, probably they could pass a law that would force everybody to dress in pink. Like, why?
Yeah, like, of course.
Nobody would do that.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it makes no. It's just, again, it's fear mongering to the people who love to talk about abortions.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, all those
and
mongers.
Man, people love to talk about abortion.
Oof, so much fun.
Yeah. Okay, what you got for me, Lenny?
Oh my, yeah. So since I was talking about retirement funds, let's move on to private property protections. So I'm talking a little bit about that. Well, not only one piece of fake news, but the fake news that fall under the banner that the new constitution will end private property protections, because that has been a hot button topic from the very beginning of this process. Like,
I need to keep my 4 homes.
Yeah, man, the specter of communism is really strong with this one. So, in October last year, one of the left-wing constituyentes was actually attributed with saying that the new constitution needs to do away with private property, and that he never did that. Like, this is like how
Well,
early
even if
this
he
whole thing
did,
started.
that's just his opinion. This is your opinion, bro.
Yeah,
like,
that's
he,
true.
Like he could, like I could be like, the new constitution needs me to provide me with pizza every day, but that's just my
Yeah,
fucking opinion.
true,
if that
true.
scares you, like
Yeah,
that's
that
not
should-
my problem.
That should absolutely be in the Constitution, actually.
Provide
But-
me pizza.
Man, pizza every day, dude. Like, I mean,
This isn't Italy.
I mean-
That's in their
I
constitution.
mean, under Allende, we got like, kids got like a liter of milk or whatever every day. I
You
mean,
get a liter of pizza.
it's a liter of pizza, like in the yeah. Okay, back on topic. So that was how this whole thing started. And you're right, that was just an opinion, but he didn't even say that. So it's like,
Yeah, I
why
know.
would you even?
Like, that's-
Okay, because they checked and he never said that. So now then, in late January of this year,
Probably got drunk at a party and was like, I didn't do. I didn't
it's
say
like a
that.
rise of the workers, whatever. So in late January this year, there was a bunch of posts on social media that made the rounds, and they were retweeting a tweet, by the actual.
They're retweeting a book.
They're retweeting a tweet by the actual Constitutional Convention that said that the Commission for sit down. For Knowledge, Culture, Sciences, Technology, Arts and Heritage, and that's their actual name. I don't know why they couldn't have picked a shorter name, a snappier
I'm
name
sure
for
it has
that.
an abbreviation. No,
Well,
that's
they also
Chile.
called the Constitution number 7, the Commission number 7.
Okay.
So they just call it the what's it also the Comisión de Conocimiento. Yeah, okay, fine.
Okay.
So they rejected the initiative 144-4. That's the name of the initiative. That was meant to enshrine the right to private property, the liberty to acquire all and any kind of goods, as well as the right to free intellectual, artistic, and scientific creation. Sounds bad, I know. I mean, let me just repeat this again. There was this initiative who wants to enshrine the right to private property, and that commission was just like, nah, rejected. But what happened there was actually very similar to what I talked about with the pension funds.
Wording.
Not the wording, wrong place. Like this proposal was made in a commission or work group, if you will, where it did not belong at all. So
Right, it was,
and this
like,
is the reason why it was
Bring
rejected.
it back later. Bring it back to when we're talking about
or
this
just
thing. We're
go
talking about
to
private-
another commission that is
Right.
actually dealing with this kind of shit,
Right.
not us.
That's not the right
It's
commission.
not because they didn't agree, but because it wasn't their place to vote on this motion in the first place. So the right for private property was something that had to be discussed in the Commission for Fundamental Rights, same as with the abortion issue, and not in the Commission for Knowledge, or the Commission number 7, as I said, that they were already also known like that. So, however, it got to a point that so I got to point out that the Commission for Knowledge, they did not reject the initiative entirely. They did save a part of it because it also concerned intellectual property rights, which is something that actually is within the purview of that Commission number 7. And you can find a paragraph on this in Article 95 of the final draft of the new Constitution. So, and I also looked up that doomed initiative that everybody was going so batshit about that got rejected, which was, signed by a couple of people on the right side of the spectrum, like Arturo Zúñiga, who was like a subsecretary of whatever under the Piñera administration. So I looked it up, and on the very first page, you can see that it was not only submitted to the Commission number 7, but also to the Commission to Fundamental Rights. So I think it's fair to assume that the authors of this initiative, they knew very well that there was some overlap in their proposal that no one single commission could sort out,
Right.
So, I mean, I think they also expected this, or parts of it, to get rejected and parts of it to be accepted,
Yeah,
So that's why they
and
submitted it to
that's
different
always
commissions.
been a hot button thing, even before the beginning of the writing of the Constitution. It's been a fear of right-wing Chileans forever that they're going to lose their rights to private property, which
I
has
wouldn't like to lose my right to private property either. I mean, I'm not going to lie. to you.
so as I was saying, that's just been a problem for a while. We're laughing because I had to record that statement that was actually a 2-minute long thing.
And then you just go
for
fuck
a
it.
while,
I don't even
and then
care
our
anymore.
Cable stopped working. So
Right.
no, I mean, people have been scared of that for a while, even before the Constitution was even being written. People have been, again, hot button issue, communism, blah blah blah. So yeah.
Yeah, that thing, right.
Right.
So actually, let me just point out one thing, and this is something that I think a lot of people haven't really thought about, because the thing is that there was actually never any doubt as to whether private property protections would be in the new constitution or not, because remember that one prerequisite for a new constitution that everybody agreed upon back in
Yeah,
2019
'cause we
when
had
the
to do one of
Constitutional
those.
Reform Act was passed in order to allow for a new constitution to be drafted? That said, and I quote, "The text of the new constitution, which will be subjected to a plebiscite, must respect the character of the Republic of Chile, its democratic regimen, its judicial verdicts, as well as international treaties ratified by Chile that are currently in effect. And one of these treaties is the American Convention on Human Rights, which Chile signed in 1969 and ratified in 1991. And of that American Convention on Human Rights, Article 21, Section 2 of this treaty, it says, "No one shall be deprived of his property except upon payment of just compensation for reasons of public utility or social interest, and in the cases and according to the forms established by law." So there, like, this has never been in doubt. Like,
No.
this was always supposed to be in the Constitution. Yeah.
Fear-mongering.
So no surprise there that eventually private property protections did make it into the final draft of the Constitution, but, there has been some discussion and misunderstanding about the wording.
This is a particular thing that my family has been sharing all over the place. I'm like, I guess when you own 5 houses, you get scared of that stuff.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter!
Yeah, I don't, and I mean, I get, like, wording, especially in something like Constitution, wording is important thing, It's like there's a different spin that you can
This is why you should listen to podcasts like this one and other more official ones, right?
Yeah, because
before you vote, so that you understand. Like, if you're worried, if you're scared, if there's something that's bothering you, you should go to somebody who knows what they're talking about, or like go to a fact checker. Don't listen to us. Go to a fact checker and read some things. There are multiple fact checkers. You don't have to take ours for a word for it.
Gotcha. But if you're talking about wording, it's more about the interpretation of this whole thing. So let me just quote Article 78, Section 3 of the current draft of the new Constitution. It says, "No person can be deprived of their property unless justified by a law that authorizes expropriation under the condition that public benefit or general interest as defined by the legislator takes precedence." And I just got to point out that I translated that stuff all myself. I'm very proud of myself because it's not easy to translate. So there, thank you. Just wanted to get a trophy or something. So, moreover, Section 4 of that same Article 78 said the proprietor always has the right to be indemnified with the fair price of the expropriated good. So, let's first talk about Section 3. People were like, okay, so now things can be expropriated if it's in the name of public interest, which is being defined by the legislator. So couldn't they just like willy-nilly go around and expropriate stuff left and right under the veneer of public interest? So not quite, because first, the expropriation clause is a very common clause in constitutions of democratic countries all over the place. Like Germany's constitution has it, the constitution of the USA has it, and yes, even Chile's current constitution defines the process for expropriation. So it's not a taboo. It's there, and we're still here. Like nobody has been like overly expropriated. Like I still have my car, whatever. It's still all there.
God, you have a car.
I know, right? It's not even under my name. So second.
So you don't have a car. That's how private property works.
Yeah, I got expropriated, I guess. So second, Section 5 and 6 of Article 78 of the draft of the new Constitution also establish that the person on the business end of the expropriation gun always has the recourse to take the state to court, and that the argument for the expropriation needs to be well-founded. So that's another, let's say, another obstacle for just random expropriations. And third, Section 5 of that article also establishes that the state needs to reimburse the proprietor beforehand. So there's actually a clear incentive for the state to be very selective with any expropriation process, because they cannot hope to just take over properties and then drag out the indemnification process forever, And
Jesus, with the price of properties these days, a lot of people are like, please
expropriate me.
Please expropriate this apartment I can't sell. Right?
And that point was a point of concern while the norm was still being discussed a few months ago, because initially it said that the mode of indemnification, so whether the payment will be made before or after, and whether it's going to be in a one payment or in installments, like that should be defined by law. But eventually they opted for a prepayment, and they put this into the draft of the Constitution. Now, which brings me to the Section 4 about the fair price. It said, like the Section 4 of that article said that anybody who is being expropriated needs to be paid the fair price or just prices, however you want to translate that. Like there has been concern about the choice of words here, because what is a fair price and why is it not market value instead, you could ask. I think this is a valid concern, to be honest. like the current constitution states that the price must either be agreed upon between the two parties, or if they can't come to an agreement, the court has to decide. Still, though, let's remember that the affected person under the new constitution will always have the right to challenge this in a court of law. Like,
Right.
they're not completely helpless, because if the state says, okay, like, this is, give me your house, and we think that the fair price is just
Again,
10 pesos.
not gonna happen. But
Yeah, whatever. Like, even if they say, like, 10 pesos, then the guy's going to be like, I'm going to take you to court. Like, 10 pesos, are you kidding me? Like, I need this house. So there's another instance that needs to be passed, right? And also, like, the American Convention of Human Rights, which Chile co-signed, which I just mentioned, used a very similar wording, which is just price. So we already have to play by these rules.
right,
This is
we're
already
just
the case,
we're just
right?
replacing the words that have already
Exactly.
been used and supplanting them within the current
Yep,
constitution.
exactly. And lastly, this thing about fair price, it's nothing revolutionary.
No.
Like, in fact, constitutions of France and Germany go about it in the very same way. So there's a precedent here. A precedent,
I
not
know
a
what you
president.
mean.
Thank you. There's a precedent here that this has been applied in other countries and other countries' constitutions, and voila, they're still standing, you know?
And the state has to have some sort of right to its own. I mean, okay, so for example, the entire south of Chile almost was owned by one dude for a very long time, and he wasn't doing anything with it. He was just these
Thompson,
national.
Tompkins.
Yeah, he was like a gringo. Like, he owned like these national parks,
Yeah.
and Chile had no right to in any way be like, there are protected animals here, there are protected plants here, there's all these things. I mean, he could have wiped it. He didn't, but he could
No,
have
he was.
wiped out.
I think he was a philanthropist. He
Well,
was
the
just
thing
like, I'm not
is,
selling
when he
this
died,
because,
he
yeah.
wrote it and gave it back to the state of Chile, which is really good.
yeah.
But Chile should have a right to be like, it should be protected. We should make this into a park. There should be some way for Chile to be able to get in those kinds of situations. But Chile really didn't have that right. And there should be some way in which, in certain cases, the government should be able to expropriate in extreme cases.
There is.
Right,
Even
that's what
now there is.
I know, but
Yeah.
Again, even with the ability, Chile still didn't do that, and Chile's not going to do that. They're not
Yeah.
just going to take somebody's property. That's not how Chile works. Nobody is mentioning that. Like, nobody has even said that. Like, even Jadwe, who is a communist,
Yeah.
has not even said that.
Yeah.
And he is a communist.
I think
So,
the only
like,
one who wouldn't give a fuck would be Eduardo Artes. He'd be just like,
Artes would be like,
I expropriate your ass.
yeah, I'll expropriate all your asses. And again, so everybody, like, it's just, again, I think a lot of this fake news is, as we said earlier, coming from a place of, like, trying
Love.
to
I
get
know.
people to not vote, and just fear and ignorance and all those kinds of things. So,
So much about private property. You got what you got.
your private parts. Okay, so there's this fake news going around that says the new constitution will end the justice system, which is a really funny one. This is the Poder Judicial,
Oh, God, yeah.
which is true, sort of. Okay, so let me explain.
But that's the thing with a lot of these things. You go like, yeah, in a way, it's right, but
You're
like
right.
you're not getting the whole picture here.
You're right, but you're wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so on May the 1st, a digital medium called Saca la Voz published a video in which the journalist Pilar Molina talks about transparency of decisions made regarding the convention, and in her speech she indicated that it is not widely known that the convention wants to eliminate the judiciary. She said the judiciary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is false. Okay, so what is formerly known as the Poder Judicial, they want to rename it the Sistema Judicial.
Right?
So they don't want to get rid of it. They just are going to rename it. And so according to Javier Coso, professor at the Department of Public Law at Diego Portales University and professor of Global Trends and Constitutionalism at the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands,
Utrecht.
this change is just nominal, and it doesn't have anything to do with elimination.
Right.
So the variation in the name is accompanied by a few structural changes, which is one of the reasons why they're renaming it, is to differentiate between like the previous and then the structural changes that are happening. So some of the regulations that have already been approved show that the changes are legal pluralism and a creation of new courts, such as the one of the execution of sentences, the administrative courts, and the elimination of the hierarchy between courts. So this is going to get a little twisty for you. So, in the basic way that I can explain this, and talking to my lawyer, boyfriend, fiance who is going to be a judge. In the way that there is a judicial system right now, there are like big judges and little judges. And unfortunately, I mean, I'm really simplifying this, but
One like 5 feet.
yeah, and
7 feet.
because of that,
Imagine, I remember it shows the Schwarzenegger movie, Twins. It was Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
Yeah, right.
oh my gosh, for movie night.
Hey, that's a good.
Everybody keeps doing that. That's a good movie. We're probably going to
Yeah.
do Zoolander next month.
I mean, it's not anyway. Just go.
Okay, so, yeah, put it at 3 over. So there are big judges and little judges. The problem is there has been corruption caught between, because if you're a little judge, you want to eventually be a big judge, right?
Yeah.
So the big judges have a lot of influence on the little judges. So the idea is in the new judiciary, there is going to be an elimination of this hierarchy. Like all of the judges are going to have their own sort of autonomy in certain ways to make judicial decisions that cannot be then influenced overruled by
really?
bigger judges.
Okay.
Or there will be a different system.
Okay.
So this is it's supported by the National Associations of Magistrates and of Chile. This new indication, and it sought that in the future judges only dedicate themselves to rulings and the task of appointment, government management, training, and discipline of national justice systems, and are at the exclusive task of the council and not the Supreme Court, which assumed both tasks currently. So, like, the Supreme Court is control of everything, while again they want to kind of individualize these courts. So,
Yeah.
for example, let me.
Right, because I don't think they're gonna change the hierarchy there. Because I've read in other parts that like in
There's still
certain
going to
matters,
be
like
different courts.
there's gonna be a hierarchy, and the Supreme Court has the last word in everything if it comes to that.
Right,
Yeah.
there are still going to be different courts. But for example, I have a friend who is a judge. She has a boss who is a judge, and her boss has more power than she literally does.
Yeah.
And so there's sort of like this, like you don't have more
boss.
legal power than I do, because I mean it's like a weird judgy thing.
Because maybe it's in different. They are like in different areas, so to speak. I am so not a lawyer, but
I'm not a lawyer, but anyway, they're just restructuring the judiciary, and it is supported by the current the judiciary in Chile right now. It's very much been, this is a way to like get corruption out. This is similar to what they have right now in Spain.
Okay.
So lawyers have been affirming with the new council it contributes to more internal independence, and that higher judges are no longer the hierarchical superiors of lower judges, and therefore they have more independence when ruling by looking at what the Court of Appeals is going to say, or the Supreme Court, on which their careers depend. So, for example, they're not like, they're going to be making less decisions based on how it's going to affect their careers. That's the idea.
Yeah, makes sense.
Rather than what they believe it should be according to the law, the rule of law.
What do my superiors want to hear?
Right. If they yeah, exactly, and they can't influence me.
Right.
Right. So in this context, the constitucionales, what? Nope, that's not the word. The constitutional people assure that to say that the judiciary is not being eliminated, and this is completely out of context, taking into account that in the country where the concept of separation of powers was invented currently and since the Constitution of the year 46, this is similarly autonomous constitutional body and has worked out well. So it's sort of like we're continuing to try to do the separation of powers. Like we're not getting rid of the separation of powers. We're trying to do that even more, right? So that's basically, I went into the weeds a little bit about what that means, but basically they're just changing the name and changing a few different things that is very much supported by the majority of people who actually are judges.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's supported by the National Association of Magistrates. So
yeah. So the upshot is name changed, and everybody was like, ah!
Yeah, exactly. Well, because it was like, I'm sure there was something they read that was like, with the getting rid of and they didn't read the next sentence, which is like to become the so. Yeah,
that's another thing. I just feel like people just read until a certain point. They go like, see, and just read on.
Yeah, like I think especially with Instagram, with the fact that you can't post articles, they just see like the news bite, and it's so much harder to be like, go to my profile and click on my links, and then go to the page, and so they anyway.
Well, attention economy, you know what I'm saying.
There you go.
All right, so I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going. So I'm gonna talk about that little fake news that the Constitution will change the country's name, flag, coat of arms, and national anthem.
I mean,
because
who cares?
apparently that's the thing. Oh, well, a lot of people care.
I mean, a lot of people care, but it's not
And
my thing.
this one actually won the Fake Awards 2021 by the fact-checking site
Aw.
Fast Check, because the UDI, who is
Oh, Pinochet's party.
all right.
I almost said Piñera's party, which is actually true too. So
No.
I mean, no, Piñera got out of the party. He was an UDI, but he's not anymore.
No, he was never UDI.
He was never an
He
UDI?
was,
Sorry, that's fake news. He was never an UDI.
RN.
He was never an UDI.
They were in Chile Vamos.
Oh, the coalition that UDI's in. Okay,
Yeah,
so
but hey, man,
scratch
you
that.
promised fake news. That's what you get.
Hey, I
People.
gave you some fake
So-
news. But see,
so
we
yeah.
fact check. That's why we have the penguin.
The
Our
penguin.
we have penguins
the
fact
fact-checking
checking us here.
penguin. So yeah, so basically what happened here, like the UDI, they just scored a three-peat. So what happened was that first it was the UDI Senator Ina van Beer in a campaign commercial on October 24th, 2021, about a month before the presidential elections, who said that it has been proposed in the Constitutional Convention to change the country's name, flag, and anthem. 2 days later, then aspiring UDI Congresswoman Maria Ignacia Castro almost repeated the same thing verbatim. And by the way, by that time, the fact checkers were already all over this whole thing. It was like,
Right.
this is just not true. But she just went ahead and kind of like almost quoted her. It was like, well, this is going to happen. And then about 2 weeks later, on November 11th, ex-UDI Senator Jacqueline van Rieselberg, she repeated the same thing almost word by word. Like, they didn't even get creative with the wording. They just like copy and pasted the whole thing.
Do you not like?
And-
I mean, I feel like if I was making as much money as most of them are making, I would at least be like, "Hey, Pinguino, I'm gonna hire you for a little bit just to like fact check
Spin
my
it a
shit
bit.
before I say it or tweet it."
But again, but that's what I said before. They probably knew it was wrong, but they
guess-
knew
I
that
mean,
the
they'd have,
impact,
like, at
they
some
have to,
point-
because they know that the impact that this was cause that would cause for them, the positive impact would far outweigh the negative impact for them
But
personally.
honestly, like of all the things we've talked about, like who gives a shit like about a flag? Like I know people like it's a flag, it's magical and majestic and shit, but come on.
It's about like this whole national identity thing. But anyway, like this whole thing, the point is that none of it's true, of course.
mean, none of
none
it's
of it is
true.
true. This is why we're talking to you guys right now. This is about fake news. So
If
what
somebody
then
was
happened
like,
was
you get human rights, but we're gonna take a stripe off the American flag, I'd be like, that's fine, as long as I get human rights. But I
Just
guarantee
over my-
you,
don't tread on me, man.
Don't tread on my. You're
tread
not
on my
taking my
stripes.
stripe away.
As long as it's Delaware.
Yeah, we're taking. I mean, they're the stripes for the 13 colonies.
Wasn't Delaware one of the original 13
Oh,
colonies?
ooh, getting schooled, baby.
I mean, no, I mean, yes. No, I just like it was. I just didn't think about it.
Then let's
I
just
thought
take-
it would talk about just as the state.
Let's just take away all New England.
Let's just take away just every
Take away
take the star
everything.
away from California.
Like the new
make it this-
constitution will do. It will take away
It's
everything.
gonna.
from
Well,
us.
I mean, come on. We need a new flag. People keep confusing us with Texas.
Nice. Okay, so what happened there in the aftermath? That the first one to spout this nonsense was Ina van Beer, and then fact checkers were just like, this ain't true. And they reached out to her, and what she did, she tried to justify herself. Like she was sending the fact checkers news article from Publimetro, La Tercera, El Mostrador, and El Dinamo, which are online/offline publications, to prove her point. But it looks like she hasn't even read these articles herself, which is kind of funny. Because the articles of Publimetro and El Dinamo, they were about how the constituyente Elsa Labraña said that the Constitutional Convention could totally change the flag and the national anthem. And while technically not wrong, I mean, she kind of said that. Like, the wording of the headlines is a bit sensationalist. Because what happened there was that her, Elsa Labraña, who's a constituyente, she was on the TV show Mentiras Verdaderas, which was like a very well-known interview show,
Sure.
late night
Truth
thing.
and lies.
Yeah, no, it's actually pretty good. Like, they got good interviews
I'm pretty
there.
sure they have a Truth and Lies in English too.
Yeah, it's probably like a copy franchise format or whatever. So, and she was asked by the host, what's the name of the host? Eduardo, what's his name?
Who cares?
Fernando. No, but he's a good one. Anyway, so she was asked by him whether she thinks that the convention should change the anthem, to which she actually said no, But she also pointed out that the anthem did not represent all Chileans, namely the indigenous peoples. And when the host asked again about the anthem and the place in the Constitution, because, I mean, it's in the Constitution, but just as, the anthem is a part of Chile, whatever. Like, Labraña, she basically said something to the effect of, well, I don't know, like, we're currently rewriting the Constitution, so maybe someone at some point will make a proposal to change the anthem or the flag, but we're still discussing a lot of things, you know?
She can't control what, again, you have these committees. She can't control if a committee's like, we're going to make everybody get some pizza at, I'm from Arkansas, pizza. I can make that accent. At 5 p.m. every day, and then they'd be like, you know what, thank you, committee for pizza, but
committee.
The pizza committee,
yeah.
But we're not gonna, I don't think, I mean, like, let's vote, everybody, okay, everybody voted no, except for the pizza committee people.
But, you know, the ridiculousness of this whole thing is that it was basically went from her saying, is like, I don't know, could happen, maybe, I don't know, to the headline. It was like, she said this could happen, to this politician was like, this is gonna happen, you know?
I mean, that's how it happens.
This is
like
this whole escalation of things, you know?
Like this the misinterpretation escalation. Yep. I mean, I can honestly see how she did that, because that's just people being ignorantly.
Right, so it's that basically, but it's literally everything that has been said about changing the flag or anthem. That's just one offhand comment by Constituyente on a TV show. Like, there have not even been formal proposals to change any of the nation's symbols or the country's name.
The committees don't care.
They haven't even discussed it. There wasn't even a proposal to be rejected in the first place. Like, the discussion didn't come up at least until November 2021.
The pizza committee isn't even doing its job about pizza.
Now, as for the other 2 articles, because remember, she sent in 4 or 5 articles, 4 articles. So for the articles from La Tercera and El Mostrador, also sounded a bit sensationalist what they wrote there, but they're not wrong, because La Tercera wrote, the Commission for Regulations rejected the incorporation of the term Republic of Chile in the statute of the convention. And El Dinamo wrote something very similar. Now, this is absolutely true, yes, but the statute of the convention has nothing to do with the Constitution. The statute of the convention is a 47-page long document that defines how the convention is supposed to work. So they rejected the use of the term Republic of Chile in favor of the term the Peoples of Chile, because they thought it was a better fit given the context. But again, this is the statute, not the Constitution.
The statute.
Yeah, the statute. Well, how do you say? Statute, yeah.
Sounds like you're saying the statue.
Yeah.
This is the statue that they're also going to tear down.
Exactly. It's made out of, marble
cheese.
And stuff. Yeah,
Marmel.
Cheese and pizza. So, and in fact, like
Committee on Pizza strikes again.
Man,
pull it all down and replace it with cheese.
They are the worst. Now, in fact, the very title.
The new Constitution is just a big block of cheese.
That'd be so awesome.
It's carved in cheese. Can we want to vote that the new Constitution is carved in cheese?
It's like
Hard
Moses,
cheese.
coming down the Mount, whatever. So, yeah. Anyway, so, okay, they didn't incorporate this Republic of Chile thing, but in the statute, thank you, not in the Constitution. And in fact,
I think you just spit off
the very title of the new Constitution is Political Constitution of the Republic of Chile. So there you go. It's like the first thing that you see, that Republic of Chile is in there. And, also just on a side note, one of the constituyentes, she pointed out that in the history of Chile, none of the country's symbols have been defined by any constitution, and changes have only been made by laws and decrees. Mm-hmm. The only thing that the current and the new constitution say about that is that the anthem, the flag, and the coat of arms are national symbols, period. They didn't even say, okay, they gotta look like this, and they were like, no, this is what they are, however they look like, whatever shape or form they take, that's whatever, up to the laws, but they're national symbols. We define this. Okay, fair enough, And just to top this off, about half a year after this, UDI three-peat, Twitter blew up again with an image of left-wing constituyente and lawyer Fernando Adria, who was actually kind of like a figurehead in this whole constituyente thing, with a supposed quote that said, it doesn't matter, he was, credited with a quote that said, it doesn't matter how many campaigns they launch on the social networks, we will change the anthem, the flag, and the coat of arms either way. The people demand for new symbols that represent everybody, insert evil laugh. This, again, turned out to be completely made up. And, it wasn't even a good fake.
I mean, because, so it was a fake account?
No, it was something like an image of him and then the quote, and then it made its round on Twitter.
Okay.
But it wasn't even a good fake because...
He didn't tweet it.
He didn't tweet it. No, not at all.
This was just an image.
Right.
Okay.
And the fact was that the fake wasn't even good because, in the Spanish original, because it is all translated, in the quote, they used the gender-neutral todes to give it a little bit more like lefty spin.
Leftist flair.
But, Adria he doesn't write like that. He doesn't use todes
No.
and amigas. So in any of his you can check his social networks, he doesn't do it. So that was kind of sloppy as far as, fake news goes. So
maybe some 13-year-old trying to be like, what am I going to do on a Saturday night? I'm going to blow up the internet. Like,
yeah, probably something like that.
I don't know.
All right, so much about the new constitution changing the flag and everything, probably with a big marijuana leaf on it as I see it, and aborted fetuses and stuff.
There's going to be a giant aborted fetus on the new
the
flag.
Chilean flag.
That's what the red stands for. Okay, friends, family. Thank you for tuning in to our episode. We are going to continue with part 2 in a couple weeks. You will see us here. We might split that up with a little bit of news to make sure you guys aren't in the dark about what's happening with the world. We haven't decided yet. So stay tuned. Remember, I'm committed. We are all 3 committed. If we get 3 more people joining either the $10 or the $20 level, we are going to make a cartoon explaining how the Constitutional Convention works.
Cartoon?
With stick figures.
Oh, okay. Well, we
Yeah.
can find somebody who...
I can draw, sort of, not really. We'll figure it
We'll
out.
figure it out.
We have Google.
Yeah, we can.
Pinguino
give it a
is an
goog.
engineer penguin of the technological arts.
Yeah, he always
So,
walks around with a wrench in his hand and...
his flipper. Anyway, I digress. Remember about our events? We have the event of the brunch, which is on the 16th. You have your Last Lovers concert on
Yes.
the 14th. And then on the 23rd is the trivia night. So if you want to support us, join us on our Patreon. If you have any comments, questions, things, we have an Instagram. Also, our Instagram does news, updates, all sorts of info for you. That's at Chile Today Podcast. The Patreon is patreon.com/the Chile Today Podcast. And I think that's it. Anything else, Lenny?
No, ma'am.
The website.
The website.
We don't have a website.
No, just the Chile Today.
Oh, yeah. So there's also a website for our news affiliate who does actual publications of articles in English, and that's chiletoday.co.
Yeah, they're like the real deal.
They're the real deal. We're the fake deal. Not the fake news deal, but you know what I'm saying. So anyway, when and out.
Gringo out.
What? I messed
Bringing
that
what?
up.
When in and out.
I told you having a coffee.
Gringo doubt. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, bye.
Bye. The Chile Today podcast is hosted by Leonard Kluge and Bethany Francis and produced by Diego Pinguino Rivera. For more information on the news topics you heard today, check out chiletoday.cl.